Maciej, do you want to start by telling us a little bit about the work that you do and who you work with?
Hi, I'm really proud I can be here with all this tech and inventors, as was said by Anna, here people. I'm mostly connected with the real estate facility management market. As you can see here from the technology presentations and other probably market researches, this is the quite big market and the market where you can really implement a lot of technologies. When we've been creating the Loredo, we wanted to create a company where we will be able to disrupt the market that is worth approximately $1 trillion globally. So the facility management altogether that connects facility, property, cleaning, security, everything that is connected to the operations. And in Loredo, let's say, company is quite new. It's second year of operation, but our team has more than 10 years of experience in facility management and property management sector. So we focus on checking what's on the market and then implementing it on the buildings. Plus, we are looking for solutions that will really improve the efficiency of the operational phase of the buildings, not only by some smart building ideas or technologies, but really also by the processes. So all these things, what we're told here, maybe not like the logistics from the construction yet, but definitely what Adam said, and from what disruptive technology does. Those are the elements that we really looking forward for. And there are two big areas where we are focusing on. It's BIM and BIM utilization on the facility management area, where we have already 3 implementations in Poland. 4 under it's ongoing. And we are focusing on digital twin idea in a long perspective. What we see, like all these technologies will work together to bring this to improve the efficiency, because there's a lot of studies that shows that we can improve the facility management market from 10 to 40% by technology. So there's a lot to do, and we see a lot of profit over there.
And Anna, at ProperGate, how exactly do you automate the arrivals? Is there sort of human involvement in that, or is it reading number plates of trucks? How does that work?
Well, every driver gets a digital or printed delivery card, which is generated in our system, and it has a QR code. So when the driver arrives, either he has a mobile phone, so the security guard can just scan the code, or if the driver doesn't have the card with him, because it happens, yeah, we know all the potential problems at the gate. So there is a option just to type the registration plate or the ID of the delivery, and once the truck is checked in, then it triggers notifications to the subcontractor, so he knows that his truck, his material is on site. The crane operator that he should start the unloading soon, and he should move the material from the truck to a certain unloading storage area. And other people, like for example inspectors, which should validate the quality of the material that just arrived, so it can be approved for use. Yeah, so everyone has the right information at the time when they should act immediately. And I know from many conversations we had with several projects that the waiting time or the time that the material is waiting for reaction from those people is sometimes even a 1 day. So you can compare, if we can inform those people immediately, they can react much faster, and there is no waiting, there is no waste of time.
I can imagine the amount of friction you're removing. And Uwe, it's been great to follow Disruptive's growth over the last couple of years, going from prototype to now full manufacture, shipping 20,000 sensors a month, I believe. Tell us about your strategy for the next year and where you're targeting from a sales and growth perspective.
Absolutely. Okay, Paul. Yeah, it's been interesting. It's been interesting to especially approach the real estate market. We've put it to a more systematic approach. So we group our use cases and approach into 3 areas. We think there's a lot to talk about when it comes to sustainability of buildings. The obvious one probably these days. A lot for us has to do with occupancy of space, which loads of people are interested in, and also regulatory things like Legionella. The other thing is people and comfort. So we've been looking at, how to make tenants happier, how to create environments that are healthy and good to work in, and also how to create new tools, like how do I know whether there's a space for me in my office? So that's the people aspect. And then the one we probably started with is efficiency, right? So people trying to improve processes, right? To save money on cleaning services or save money on maintenance services and technical facility management. Now there's use cases for us in all 3 of those areas. But what's new for us is that we single out things like Legionella protection is something that just works. We have the partners in place to do it. We have customers who want it. So let's go and execute, right? So that's a bit of a difference to where we came from maybe a year ago. So when it comes to this year, so far you're quite right. We've ramped up our production capabilities now. We have these just under 40,000 in the field. We aim at these to at least double within this year, and it'll go from there next year, right? So I'd say it's fair to say we're maturing also the way we approach the market in real estate, and the nature of our product is such that it can inspire people, right? You give it to people. Here's a little chip, right? And here's a connector. You plug it in and go and try out. And I think we needed that, but I think we're also beyond that now. We know the things that do work, and I think we'll probably see replica and applications that are similar, but we know for sure now that some things just, earn you money, and this is where we're at.
Brilliant. And from the Hyperloop, I love trains, I love railways, I love everything about this. I was one of those little boys that wanted to be a train driver, like I'm sure other people in the room.
I think it will not be possible in the future, to be honest. Sorry.
Okay.
Too late.
Oh dear, gutted. How realistic is it that this is going to get funded, and how much is a nice idea but a bit science fiction?
Well, I think this is the most common question in our case, so thank you for asking it again. In terms of funding, we're funded for now. We have more than 4 million euros. At the moment, we plan to resume fundraising probably 4th quarter or 1st quarter of next year when we do the small scale demonstrator. It's going to be around, it's the dimensions of the vehicle and the truck width will be more or less 1:5 scale, but the propulsion will be 1:1 scale and suspension 1:2. So basically the most important elements will be almost full scale. So we want to show it to our potential investors, potential clients. We've spoken with numerous railway operators and infrastructure managers in Europe and Asia. Basically, everybody is rather interested in thinking about piloting this kind of technology. But of course, the first question we get, when can we see it? So this is what we are focused on at the moment. Then we have funding, as I said, for full scale. Of course, this is not the full Hyperloop yet. It's a magnetic train implemented on existing railway track. then it's of course much cheaper to do it and quicker. And it gives railways quite a good thing in terms of their regaining then their competitiveness. So now we're going to focus more on partnering, because we are totally aware that we are not in a position to scale this kind of technology, even if we have it within this, let's say, 3 years of R&D, and then around 2 for certification and piloting. We will need very strong international players supporting us in order to be able to scale it, because basically otherwise it will be impossible. So this will be one of our major focuses for the next months. In terms of Hyperloop itself, it has already been proven that the physics work. We're dealing with technologies that exist in principle. They are just put together, and now it's a question of optimizing them on one hand, and then dealing with this real estate nightmare, meaning all the planning, zoning, land acquisition, administrative stuff that takes ages. I hope dealing with land development for like 7 years is something that technology and some of the companies that we see here, or maybe others, will also help with this, because I don't know how it works in other countries, but here like local authorities sometimes seem to be so analog that really it's so inefficient. And if something is done with this, of course, this will also speed up the implementation process of proper Hyperloop lines.
Okay, so a lot of challenges, but you've got momentum, you've got funding at the moment. Adam, from Velis' point of view, what are some of the things that are really animating clients at the moment that they're asking for, that they're sort of prioritizing when you're speaking to them about your suite of products?
It strongly depends on the market and the region of the world. We focus very much now in Asia, in Japan, so they are very, let's say, greenfield. They haven't got the smart companies, smartphones, or the internet data plans, so they're really on the early stage. So they are looking on the basic solutions that to be the starting point from the software perspective, which was for us very shocking, and that's why we chose the market like 3 years ago to be one of our priorities. So they do not look the top innovations, because they have to do the work on the basics. In Middle East, they look for this, let's say, upper level of the technology, which needs to be wow factor, which needs to be very innovative from the perspective of PR and marketing of the real estate. And they are very dynamic. So number of construction which are going there, it drives the types of the projects. So there are more projects focused on the one building, and the one building needs to be fulfilled with the technology in the short term before the leasing started. So it's also different in the Europe. So majority of the buildings here, we have the existing ones. So they are more focused on improving the processes, efficiency, reducing the costs, than to have the really top innovations built in, because they know that their budget, they haven't got much capex budget, they have to use the opex budget, so this is a little bit different story. So each of the market for us is quite different. The US market, which we started this year, it's based on the large scale projects. So for example, now we have first project when there is 5,000 buildings there, so they cannot go so deeply into the infrastructure. They have to have the upper layer of implementation. So that's why we collect this experience, but it's really different than each of the region of the world.
Okay. Please do put your hand up if there's any questions from the audience. Does anybody want to ask any of our panel about any of the presentations, or do we have anything on Slido? Is it yes? We can go to there. Question about local market. Is there room for more products coming into Warsaw? Does anybody have views on that?
I could just have a short comment. we see a lot of startups, a lot of technology, but when you go to the particular building, particular property, there is no many of the technology there. So with the new constructions, for sure, there is maybe not, there is space, but there is a space, but not a huge one because they already cover it. But existing market, it's existing buildings which are 5-10 years old, as they all the time huge market to cover. So there is a lot of space for even having the 10 Velises here or 10 Loredo lesses or other companies.
Maybe just to add to this, what Adam said, there's a lot of room for products in Warsaw and whole Poland at all. What we see is, what's the biggest challenge we see is that the products are addressed in the wrong way or to the wrong decision makers. We all focus on investors, developers, general contractors, that they are focused on a little bit different activities or targets on a specific phase of the investment. So if it's planning, construction, then operations. Sometimes in operations, the owners are changing every 2, 3, 5 years, depending on the fund. There are not many investors in Poland that invest long term. So what we see that the products are addressed to the investors, not to the FM market or property management market. Of course, it's not an easy one, as we can notice, and that's why I changed the place where I am at this moment, because for many years we don't see any progress here. It's still the disruption, it's not the core. A lot of FM companies doesn't see profit in that or doesn't want to spend time on that. So let's try to address it a little bit different. Let's try to reach different companies, even globally. There are a couple implementations globally that we will see probably shortly in Poland. There are some in France, there are some in Germany on big FM companies. So probably new products will come shortly also to Poland. Yeah, so this is my comment to that.
Okay, a couple of other questions from Slido. We've heard about sustainability today, which I think is great that it's becoming more of a mainstream subject in property discussions, and fighting the climate crisis that we all have to do. How possible do the panel think that achieving net zero emissions is in Central Europe? Do we have the tech to enable that? I know it's a big question, but Anna, you look like...
Yeah, I can address from our research that we've made for the last couple of months. And you cannot tell about zero net emission building if the materials that are produced for those buildings emit such a high level of CO2 that it won't be much better for next 10 years. But the focus on decreasing this emissions, this level is serious. So I know that we are getting there, but is it? Will it be in 20 years or 50 years? That's a question mark. We can all make the effort to reduce everywhere where possible. Yeah, we are focusing on the traffic. That's what we are doing now. But based on the conversations we've had in Toronto in May this year and the previous year, we understood that it would be great to actually have information about all the carbon footprint for all the materials that are used for constructing the building, and we're also thinking how to make it, because the database of materials is, I would say, it does not exist yet with the data about this footprint. So, and in Toronto, University of Toronto is now creating such a base together with leading general contractor. So there are some movements to change the status quo, I would say. And that's Canada, and that's not even Central Europe, yeah? And because Canada is showing that they are very very far in the future comparing to this topic. They are at the beginning of discovering what has to be done, what information you really need, and this is only having information, not yet influencing to choose the right materials with lower carbon footprint. So.
Okay.
Do we have the tech needed? Absolutely not. Do we have the information we need? Not yet. But it doesn't mean that it shouldn't change. I think more startups actually should focus exactly on this.
Okay. Anybody else? Any views on net zero emissions? Is it a nod?
I am, Central Europe also having, quite a bit of car industry, automotive industry. I found one thing I find remarkable. I have 2 customers now who say they want to be carbon neutral by, the time frame varies, but in one case it's 2023, the other one is 2025. So I think to some degree it has to be mandated by someone. This can be authorities in a country, this can be the leadership in a company, but I think it has to be someone driving this. Because I think the tech, a lot of the tech is already in place. Materials, tech, renewables, a lot of it is there, but there has to be an agenda to pursue, right? So, and I think a lot of us sitting here can play their role, but someone has to drive it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe just one to add here. I also represent International Facility Management Association. I'm president in Poland. Where globally with RICS we have a cooperation to support the industry, especially focused on construction and facility management, because we see that this is also the key part for these zero net emission buildings, because we need to focus on the concept, on the construction and further operation. It's also facility management as a corporate understanding, so like the tenants, internal office, what we manage by ourselves, like the workplace, etc. But on the other hand, we need to know how to maintain and operate the building, so there will be still, let's say, green or other certificates or zero emission in the future.
Okay. The other big area that comes up that's good to get a question on is skills. Are there enough tech-skilled people in Poland to match demand for PropTech? Any views on that?
Short comment. From the perspective of the PropTech vendor, we have the day-to-day fight with the corporations which also want to attract the tech skilled software developers and engineers. But I think it's now quite good moment. So attracting the young people, they are not going all to this large corporations. So, and we have quite a large potential. So for sure. But on the other side, what we miss in the market in our say projects is IT project manager in the structures of the customers' organizations. So this exists in the headquarters in London, in New York, in Melbourne, in these kind of places, but very rarely here in local markets. So and the local markets manage number of the IT projects. So usually it's managed by the existing teams of property managers, facility managers, asset managers, which are not fully, they haven't got this background. So, and the projects are now more and more complex, more and more tech-oriented. So it starts to be really challenging. So I believe this part of the skills are something that need to grow in the local markets.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Any views on skills and hiring or building teams or?
I can always have some comments, but maybe other question.
Maybe private
Yeah.
over lunch. Okay, we'll draw things to a close there. Thank our wonderful panel. Join me in thanking them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.